Good morning. Going for a first run today in probably my most anticipated shoe of this year. Today I'm trying out the Superblast 2 from ASICS. The original Superblast is one of my favorite training shoes. Has a max stack, manages to be incredibly light in spite of how big it is, and it's really the only shoe of this size that I could also do really fast paces in as well. So it wasn't a shoe that I would take for, you know, track sessions or anything like that, but it was the perfect long run shoe, especially if you want to try and turn up the pace during a long run and do some quicker miles in there as well, because it's not a completely squishy max shoe that makes it difficult to run fast in, and it's also not a heavy shoe where a lot of times you're looking at a long run shoe with a max stack. It's soft and squishy and comfortable, but not really capable of running fast. And the Superblast really did a great job of bridging the gap between a daily long run shoe and a tempo shoe. And I kind of have a perfect workout to try these out with today. My marathon plan calls for a progression run, so I'm going to do 40 minutes at easy pace and then 10 minutes to close it out at a little bit faster than easy pace, kind of close to my goal marathon pace. So I'm also wanting to see if these are a potential shoe for me for the Chicago Marathon. So we'll see how they feel today, and I'll let you know. One thing that will be working against me today is the fact that I basically live in a swamp now. It's been like 80 to 90 something percent humidity every day for the last couple of weeks. So running outside has been pretty brutal. So I can relate to you that have this climate more of the time, like people in Texas and other really hot areas of the country. But we really need this humidity to break here. It's been brutal running outside lately. So 1 mile in, I ran at 8:26 that first mile. Again, kind of going for easy pace, so that's kind of right in my wheelhouse of where I should be. However, one thing I will say, I was very excited with this shoe when I heard they were going to put the Flight Foam Turbo Plus foam in there, because that's what's in the new Paris series from ASICS, the Sky and the Edge Paris, and I find that shoe to be a lot softer and bouncier. This definitely doesn't feel like the same formulation of foam. I think it's interesting with all these brands where, like Nike even with, say, Zoom X. In the Alphafly, Vaporfly, Zoom X is one thing. In the Invincible run, it feels like completely different. So a lot of times they'll say that it's a certain foam, but it definitely seems to be different from shoe to shoe. One thing I'll say with this one so far is it does feel softer than the Flight Foam Turbo from the Superblast 1, but it sinks in more. It's less responsive than what's in the Paris series. So this, to me, I feel like this shoe might struggle to go as fast as the Superblast 1. It's definitely a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more cushioned. It's a little bit more bouncy, but I also feel like I'm sinking into the shoe a bit more. So it'll be harder for me to do a higher cadence in this shoe. Now, it's too early to say that definitively. You know, I'm gonna keep running in it and see how it performs. Overall, so far though, it has the same geometry pretty much exactly. So the feel of the stability and my foot in the shoe, the fit is pretty much exactly the same. So whatever size you got in the Superblast 1, I think you'd be fine in the Superblast 2. They changed the upper. They made it more of a traditional running shoe upper. It's a little bit more breathable. So time will tell, you know, as I continue to run in this, but I'm also sweating way too much for having run for 8.5 minutes right now. This humidity is brutal, but I got another, what, 50 minutes to go. So we'll see how it goes. All right, with this humidity and scenery, I feel like I'm running through the jungle in Predator. I'd probably have a little bit more energy though if I was being chased by the Predator. One thing I have to say though, initial impression of these, I'm actually kind of disappointed. I was expecting these to be a more lively, lighter, faster version of the Superblast, and to me, they've made it more of a daily trainer. The foam is softer and bouncier, but it also is more compressive, and I feel like I'm getting less pop from the shoe. So again, I'm a larger runner. I think they're a great place to do this with 100 cars going by. I'm 6'4", 230 pounds, so I tend to sink into shoes when they have a soft foam. So for me, actually, the prior Superblast with the firmer Flight Foam Turbo acted more like a plate in that shoe, even though it didn't have a plate, and felt more propulsive. So I found it easier to pick up the pace in that shoe than I am in this one right now. Although I'm still at the easy part of this run. I'm definitely not going to give it my best effort today though, because I've probably lost at least 2 pounds of sweat already on this run. It's just brutal today. But I think ASICS did a good job of making this shoe more of a daily trainer. The upper is a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more traditional. The foam is softer and bouncier. The shoe is more compliant, I would say, for daily miles. But what I really loved about the Superblast 1 was I could also pick up the pace in it and run some tempo paces. I haven't tried to do that in this shoe yet. I will later towards the end of this run, but that also might not be representative considering how tired I'm gonna be at that point. Okay, I'm done with the 50-minute easy part of that run. I don't think there's any sweat left in my body. So now I'm gonna try and run 10 minutes fast to close out this run. I feel like the bad guys at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like my face is just gonna melt off right now. 60 minutes done with the last 10 trying to run a little bit faster. In fairness to this shoe today, these were absolutely brutal conditions today. This reminded me of when I ran the New York City Marathon in 2021 when it was like 76 degrees with 84% humidity. It's probably about the same as that right now. I'll have to check the weather when I get inside. But just really draining running through this thick air and sweating so much and not being able to evaporate it. I also feel like I stepped in a puddle, like my shoes are full of sweat. So that's probably slowing me down somewhat as well. But again, first impression of these, I am disappointed. I feel like these are reminding me more of like the New Balance Fresh Foam More V3, where it has that Fresh Foam X kind of feeling to the foam, where it's softer and sinks in more, very cushioned and comfortable, but not as fast. And this shoe is really designed to be faster than that one. So I think it's definitely softer and bouncier than the one, but it lacks some of the firmness of that original Flight Foam Turbo foam, which gave that snappy feel. So I feel like I'm not going to be able to run as fast in these as I was in version 1. So I'm going to continue using them and do a couple more runs before I finish this video, but that's my first impression. First things first, I'm glad I did more runs in this shoe before finishing this video. I've now run in this shoe 5 times and have 33 miles on it. So a lot more than just a first impression. After that run, I did a 4-mile easy run where I was able to keep my heart rate kind of right where I want it in the 140s, and it did feel more propulsive during that run. Really on that first run, I think I could have been running in a shoe with rockets on it and I would not have been running faster feeling good. It was just so hot and humid. So that second run was still humid, but not as humid, and I did feel a lot more bounce from the shoe. The Flight Foam Turbo Plus in this shoe definitely has more bounce than the original Superblast. One thing I was surprised about when I first got these though is that they actually gained a little bit of weight from the previous Superblast. I have a US men's 12 in both shoes, and I do think the fit is pretty much the same. Some people are saying this one runs a little bit longer. They, to me, are pretty much exactly the same. The footprint on the outside is the same. The width of the upper is the same. These do come to a little bit more of a point than these ones do, but as far as the fit goes, when you have your foot in there, they feel almost identical to me. Also, the tongues are exactly the same, as well as the heel counter. So that part of the shoe hasn't been changed at all. Really, the big changes are the upper. You can see right there, this has more of a traditional daily trainer type upper. It's more ventilated. It's a little bit more softer mesh, where this is more of that like, feels almost like waxy. It's less breathable. So this one is more kind of a more comfortable upper for long runs and easy runs, which is really what this shoe is more designed for. And then the two other big differences are the midsole and the outsole. So one of the big complaints with the Superblast 1 is you get a ton of rocks and twigs and things stuck in these cutouts that were here. They've eliminated those in the Superblast 2. There's no more cutouts in the bottom of the shoe, so we're not having the stone trapping problem anymore. They also changed the rubber here. Now it's a ASICS grip rubber. You can see the pattern of it is a little bit more aggressive as well, so these have a little bit better grip for running in wet conditions. And you can see here, this shoe now has, I believe, just over 150 miles on it. And you can see I have some tearing here in the Fight Foam Blast on the bottom here. That's really the only visible wear on the shoe. The rubber's still holding up really well. So this shoe has been reported is a very, very durable shoe. So the one had the Flight Foam Turbo Foam on the top and the Flight Foam Blast Plus on the bottom. This has Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco on the bottom and Flight Foam Turbo Plus on the top. That's a tongue twister. But this shoe definitely feels, the Flight Foam Turbo Plus is definitely a softer foam than the original Flight Foam Turbo. One thing I was surprised about though, this did actually gain a little bit of weight. This shoe is 10.42 ounces. In my size, US men's 12, whereas the previous Superblast came in just under 10 ounces at 9.86, so it gained about a half an ounce. Now, I will say on foot, today I actually did my 5th run in this shoe, and I ran 3 miles in the Superblast 1, and then switched to this one and ran 3 miles in the Superblast 2, and that to me, I was really glad that I did that, because I got to compare them kind of one right after the other, and I've been feeling like this shoe was getting me a little bit more bogged down, but on that run today, it definitely did not. The first 3 miles in the Superblast 1, that shoe actually felt softer to me. Now, it has been broken in, for 150 miles. This shoe only has 33 miles on it now, but the biggest difference that I felt is with the Superblast 1, I feel like all the softness and squish of this shoe is coming from the bottom layer, and then the top layer is firmer. So I feel like that does help you to run a little bit faster in this shoe. It has a little bit more pop since that top layer is firmer, but the difference being this one, look at that. So the laces fly in my face. This Turbo Plus foam actually has a lot more energy return than the kind of stiffer foam in the top here. So this one feels firmer and like you can push off more in it, but then my results of the run today, I went much faster in the second 3 miles, even though I was more tired and more sweaty wearing this shoe than I did in the Superblast 1. So my initial first impressions were completely off with this one, because as I ran more in it, I'm realizing even though this gained a little bit of weight, and surprisingly they actually lowered the stack a little bit too. It was 45.5 and 37.5. Now it's just 45 and 37. So it's still an 8mm drop, but they let go of about a half ounce of foam there, half a millimeter of foam, and then the weight actually went up about a half an ounce, which was kind of surprising to me. I think a lot of that though is the comfort in the upper, making this more of a kind of built up, comfortable upper. But in hand, you really don't notice the difference in weight, and the bounce that this one gives you, it's definitely more propulsive. I also took this shoe on a 12-mile long run in this continued wonderful humidity, but it did feel very supportive for me, very comfortable on that long run. Really the big thing that this shoe does with this amount of super foam is it just saves your legs. On those long runs, it does still feel lighter than a shoe like that Brooks Glycerin back there that is also kind of a big stack shoe, but has nowhere near the energy return of this, and it's also significantly heavier. So for a long run, I'd much rather be wearing this shoe than that one. And here, my heart rate was in the 140s, got into the 160s because it was so hot. In the middle there too, I think I stopped and had an energy gel and drank some water, but forgot to pause my watch. So that's why that 1 mile really stands out there as being slow. It's because I was standing still at that time. I think the most telling run about this shoe is the one that I did in it today, where I ran 6 miles this morning, and there was a huge thunderstorm overnight. So I was like, all right, it's finally not going to be humid in the morning. No, it was 93% humidity. I'm like, it was a friggin' thunderstorm. Why is it still humid? So another hot, sweaty run, but I did the first 3 miles in the Superblast 1 and then switched to the Superblast 2 for the second 3 miles. So, you would think I'm going to be more tired in the second half of that run. It's going to be more difficult for me. I'm going to go a little bit slower, but actually it was the opposite. If we look at the chart here, I ran 8:28, an 8:26, and an 8:18 in the Superblast 1, and you can see the third mile's faster. One thing I did in each shoe, right before I got to the end of the third mile, I ran as hard as I could just to see how it would feel running fast in the shoe. And then you can see in the second 3 miles, I immediately sped up to an 8:05 in the Superblast 2, an 8:06, and then 8:02 for the last mile. So the last mile was actually my fastest mile at the end of the whole thing, when I was the most tired, had the least sweat left in me. And when I picked it up in that last mile in this shoe, I could really feel the difference with this foam, feeling more responsive, more energy return. And it actually does feel lighter on foot, even though it's slightly heavier, because of that energy return that you get from the shoe. So is the Superblast 2 still super? Definitely yes. Now, buy it, wait, or second rate, that's kind of an interesting one, because you can't buy it. you had to pre-order it, because they're all sold out. So if these do come back, I still think this is the best long run shoe that you can get. Just comfort wise, stability wise, the weight relative to the size of the shoe, the energy return you get from it, the leg saving property of this shoe. Now this is one of those things too where you could say, okay, well, now's the time to buy the Superblast 1 on discount. You can't do that either, because the Superblast 1 is also sold out, and if you can still get it, it's full price. So you can pay $200 for the Superblast 1 or $200 for the Superblast 2. So I guess the good news is they didn't raise the price, at least, but you can't really get a deal on this shoe. I actually, though, I did pre-order it, and I'm a volunteer firefighter, so they do give a 25% discount for first responders. So if you are a police, firefighter, military, you can order it from ASICS website using that code to get the discount if they ever get it back in stock. Speaking of that, I'm wearing my Hotbog Fire Department 5K shirt from the race that I ran last year. So this is our second event coming up this year in September 7th. So if anybody's in the New York area and you want to run a 5K, I'll put the link to the event website in the video description. So love to have you come out, support the fire department. This year we are going to have a live band after the race. I have a physical therapy company coming to stretch runners out. I'm working on getting a food truck and some donuts and things as well. So hope it'll be a fun event and supporting the fire department and the community. So if you're available, feel free to come on out. Last thing today, I've really been wanting to try this shoe, but just haven't had the opportunity yet. I'm in the midst of my marathon training block, and pretty much all my runs are slow runs or progressive runs or long runs. I haven't had really any speed work recently, and I'm really looking to take these out for a fast run. So a review on these will be forthcoming, but it's so weird for me to have a brand new shoe like this and not have used it yet. I'd like to hear from you as well in the comments. Let me know if you've run in the Superblast 1, if you've run in the Superblast 2, how you think they compare. I'd like to get some other runners' insights on these shoes as well. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that YouTube will care that I'm here one day. If you're enjoying the content, I'd appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.